Today we're going to be talking about inner child healing through self-reflection. And before we get into our main topic for today, I want to also open up the floor and ask you guys, right, how are you guys doing right now? You don't have to come off camera. You can just stay, like off camera and just maybe express. We can go popcorn, right? One person, anyone wants to start, you can start by saying how you're feeling right now. Also, maybe what you look to gain out of this presentation, and then you pass it on to the next person. So anyone could start. Celestis, you want to start?
Yeah, I can start. So right now I'm kind of glad that we are here today, to kickstart our inner child healing journey with Miss Lira here. And I think it's been a long time coming, and everyone needs to heal their inner child one way or the other. And I'm excited to, start this journey. It's been quite difficult to even talk about it, but I think there's a good start to it. So yeah.
Yeah, good point. Pepe toi.
Hi. So now I think I feel grateful for this, to be in this safe place, and I'm looking forward to reconnecting with myself. Yeah.
Yeah. I've already been playing music. I think we're already warmed up, right? So in this moment, let's just take a couple deep breaths, and then we're going to hop into our presentation. So take a deep breath in. Breathe out. Take another deep breath in. Breathe out. One more. Take a deep breath in. Breathe out. Okay, so I hope that allowed you to just bring yourself back in the present and ground yourself before we get into talking about our inner child. This can be a heavy topic, especially if you are someone that haven't started that journey yet for yourself or haven't started your healing journey overall. Facing your inner child can be challenging and can be painful. So, throughout the conversation, throughout the presentation, if you do feel as if you want to head out, that is perfectly fine due to the amount of overwhelm. If you feel overwhelmed based on the amount of information that's coming your way. Also, please, I want it to be a little bit interactive as much as possible. So ask any questions that you have. That would help me a lot. Also, please give me a quick second. I'm going to go ahead and just turn on my TikTok live. That way we're also live on there. So hopefully we get some people interacting with us on TikTok as well. Also, if you're watching from TikTok, we are doing an inner child healing workshop today. So you might not be able to see the presentation itself, the actual presentation, but you can hear me. And also, if you want to leave some comments in the comment section, let me know. Just leave your comments in the comment section. I'll try to get to them as much as I can. And also, guys, if you're watching from the computer, right, and you see me turn my head, I might be talking to TikTok. So, just bear with me. Here we are, the first part of inner child healing. This is the presentation here. It's going to be run by me, Lira Ndifon. What kind of qualifies me to be able to run a presentation like this? I got my bachelor's in early childhood studies and human development. So inner child or early childhood emotions are something that I have studied. I did my bachelor's on. I studied this. I learned this. I wrote papers on this. Also, I am a life coach. I am a neuro-linguistic programming life coach. I have been practicing this work for almost 4 years now, including with my podcast. Also, my own personal life, right? Going through my own journeys and going through my own personal journeys of facing depression when I was at Sonoma State and overcoming that battle for myself, right? I think that it kind of gives me a good background, a solid background to be able to, talk on this topic. We're going to move into our next slide, which is everyone has an inner child, right? And this is the beautiful thing about your inner child is that you're not alone, right? Every single one of us have an inner child that needs healing from, because we have all been through some type of, either trauma, we have all been through some type of pain. Also, we have been through some type of programming from our parents, our community, our society, right? As children, also, as children, why we absorb a lot of information from birth to 8 years old. The brain has developed at least 90% already. So that is a significant part of our brain that has already taken form before we form into adults, before we get into teenage years, right? We have already formed our belief system. And that's why learning about your inner child and healing your inner child is a significant part of you becoming your best self as an adult, and also learning how to heal yourself as an adult, right? And the beautiful thing is we all have an inner child. I have one, you have one. There's no one person in this world that doesn't have an inner child. But most of the time, most people don't actually go on this journey on finding self or learning about their inner child. And that's why we find a lot of people on the same type of pattern, on the same type of circumstances. You find yourself in like depression over and over and over because you are trying to heal the symptoms now as an adult instead of trying to heal the root cause, which is going back into childhood and healing the trauma that happens, or healing the neglect that happened in that space, or healing the shame, the blame, the low self-esteem that took place in childhood, right? So again, if you're watching from TikTok, we are hosting a live webinar right now. I will be looking at my computer. If you see me looking this way, I'm looking at my computer. But this live webinar is about inner child healing. We are talking about healing our inner child because we all have one. So please go ahead and leave some comments in the comment section if you have any. Right now, we are just getting started. We're talking about we all have an inner child, and most of the programming that we receive from early on as young children stems from when we were at least between the age of 0 to 8 years old, because that's when the brain takes a true form. The next slide that we're going to talk about is the benefits of knowing your inner child, right? Why is it important for you to know your inner child? Being aware of your inner child can help you be more creative, live longer, right? That's a true fact there. Being able to understand your inner child allows you to live longer, live a fulfilling, carefree life, and also have a joyful life as well when you're able to know your inner child, which I'm going to go more in detail in that later on in the presentation. And also another benefit of knowing your inner child is having a successful life. Success means different things to different people, right? So I will say, just from a general scheme, right? Having a successful life when it comes down to your career path, having a successful life when it comes down to making friends, relationships, having a successful life when it comes down to your emotional healing, right? Healing yourself, being aware of your inner child and knowing your inner child, right? Those are the benefits of, getting to know yourself from that perspective. Also, another benefit of knowing your inner child is that it can help you build resilience to deal with challenging moments and obstacles, right? And the reason why knowing your inner child or having a relationship with your inner child can help you build resilience and go through challenging moments is because when you're functioning from that perspective of knowing your inner child, right, you somewhat know the weaknesses that were programmed in you as a child when you were growing up, right? Because most of the times when we face challenges in today's life, it's our inner child that is reacting for the most part. That's why most people react instead of responding, right? Because they are reacting from that inner child perspective instead of taking a moment and pausing and responding to what the situation called for. So the benefit of knowing your inner child is that it gives you the autonomy to be able to make decisions from a more healthy place. The next slide that we will be talking about here is what is an inner child, right? What is your inner child? Your inner child is not a childlike personality. Most of the time, many people think that inner child is a playful personality or playful, a joking person, right? Of course, your inner child has that playfulness. That is why they're there. As well, it is a part of your subconscious mind that experience and still remember your childhood memories, right? That is what your inner child is. It remembers the emotions, the memories, the moments. And also, I want to add that your inner child, the emotions that you face in your inner child, right? There's no bad or good emotion. Let me just say it like that, right? We define the emotions that we feel based on the thinking that we have in this moment and based on how much healing we have done for ourselves, right? That's how we define good or bad emotion, because every emotion that shows up in our body is there to teach us something. It's there to tell us a message, right? Every emotion that we feel is a messenger. So, people define emotions from good or bad, right? But every emotion, it's just a blank emotion, right? There's nothing, I don't know how to say it, but you define the emotions that you feel. When it goes down to the next part, we're still talking about, inner child, right? What is an inner child, right? The next part is we also talk about, the next slide. Let's go to the next slide. Your inner child is a part of your subconscious mind that has been picking up messages way before you could fully process your emotions, right? Mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and even physically, right? Because the thing is, when you are a fetus, right, when you're still in the womb, you are already having an understanding of this world. That's why fetus in the mother's belly are able to know their parents' voice. They're able to know their caregiver's voice, and also they're able to pick up on sounds, right, even though they're still in their belly. So when you are still in that fetus position, right, when you're still a fetus, you are getting programmed, right? And this program is subconsciously happening, and that's why it is important for pregnant women to be able to play like music to the child, right? To be able to speak to the child in the stomach, right? It's important for them to be able to nurture, care for the child, because by the time the child comes out, right, they already have some type of sense of this world. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, that before your child is born, they already have some type of personality trait that they have received from being in the womb, right? And that's why it's important that when a lady is pregnant, if she is stressed out, to know that if she's stressed out, the baby is also going to be stressed out, right? If she feels shame, the baby is also going to feel shame. If she feels anxiety, the baby is also going to be feeling those same emotions as well, right? That's why it's super crucial for us to be able to understand that from that perspective. And then also your inner child holds emotions, memories, and beliefs from the past, as well as hopes and dreams for your future, right? I'm also going to talk a little bit more on that perspective later on in the presentation. So we're going to move on to our next slide here, which is why is it important to know and reconnect with your inner child, right? The first reason why it's important to know and reconnect with your inner child is you heal your past wounds, right? Many of us in today's society walk around here, carrying on wounds that we have yet to heal. And I'm going to give an example here. A lot of the women that go on the reality show, like Basketball Wife or Baddies, right? Or Jocelyn Cabaret. A lot of those women that go on those shows, they carry a lot of emotional wounds. They carry a lot of inner child wounds. That's why you see them pop off immediately as soon as someone says something, because they get triggered easily. They're not getting triggered because the person that is speaking to them is not only being disrespectful or not respecting the boundary, but they're also getting triggered because their inner child in them, right? It's still needs a lot of healing, still need a lot of work. And when they get triggered, it is their inner child that is getting triggered. It is not them in the moment. Obviously, they do have a part to play in it, but a lot of times it's that inner child that is getting triggered in that space. So when you are able to reconnect with your inner child and heal from that perspective, right, you're able to heal your inner child wound, the past wounds. Also, it helps you and acknowledge unresolved pain from childhood, right? Let's say you were someone that was abused, right? Whatever it's physically, sexually, mentally, it allows you to be able to go back into that place and heal that wound from that perspective, right? Also, it allows you to heal old emotional wounds, rather than um, unconsciously repeating those type of behavior, right? For example, if you're someone that is defined in your adult life right now, right, most of the reason why you are defined in your adult life is not because you want to be stubborn, or it's not because you want to get in trouble. It's because of the subconscious programming that you receive, right? Let's say you were someone in your childhood that was very stubborn. You go out, right? You steal, you do all of this other things that are not healthy for you, right? And in your adult life, you find yourself repeating those same cycle, right? That means that there is a connection tied to your inner child. There's a reason why you continue to steal, right? There's something that is connecting you to you going out and stealing, which that stems from your inner child. And then the next reason why it is important for you to know and reconnect with your inner child is that you build self-awareness, right? Your inner child holds the root of your core beliefs, fears, and behavior, right? Before, like I said, before you are able to form your own belief system as an adult, you have already been programmed when you were a little kid, because your brain developed at least 85% to 90% by the time that you're already 8 to 10 years old. Your brain has already fully developed. You have already learned the belief system that you want to adopt. That's why many people in today's society are Christians, not because they grew up wanting to be Christian, but because they were indoctrinated by the society, by their families, right? They were already programmed from young age to think that Christianity is the way to go, right? Or whatever you're Muslim or whatever other religion you indulge in today, right? Is because you were already pre-programmed to believe that that is the religion you should be living by. Also your fears, right? In today's society, if you are afraid of, I don't know, taking chances, right? Many people don't take chances on themselves. If you are afraid of taking chances, stepping out of your comfort zone, right? Maybe that fear isn't from you failing today. That fear might have stemmed from when you were young, right? Somebody might have told you, hey, don't do that. You're going to fall. Don't climb on that chair. You're going to fall. Don't climb on the table. You're going to fall. So because you have associated climbing onto a table to, failure and falling, right? You now adopt your fear in that space. Also, the next thing is that it brings clarity to why you reach the way. It brings clarity to why you react the way that you react in today's society, right? Being able to connect with your inner child brings clarity to you. And then we're going to talk about the next couple three, I believe. Being able to connect with your inner child, strengthen your self-love and compassion, right? When you have a relationship with your inner child, you are able to be more you are able to have more compassion and self-love for yourself. By nurturing your inner child, you practice self-acceptance and learn to give yourself unconditional love you may have missed as a child growing up, right? for instance, let's say your mother had to work all the time, right? And you someone had to parent yourself from the age of 5 to 10, right? You had to take care of, maybe you had to take care of your siblings, maybe you had to go to the farm, maybe you had to go to, a babysitter by yourself, right? Or you have to walk to school by yourself, right? It allows you to reconnect with yourself from the perspective and give yourself empathy and compassion and give yourself that love that you might have missed growing up. Also, connecting with your inner child allows you to break the negative cycle that you're on right in this moment. It provides room for you to heal your inner child, heal your inner child, empower yourself to break generational patterns of trauma, shame, and neglect, right? Like I said, I would even say this: generational trauma goes at least 4 generations back, right? And if you want to look into that, that is several years, several decades actually. So generational trauma goes at least 4 generations back. So our trauma that we're facing today comes from our ancestors, our great ancestors, our ancestors, ancestors, and our ancestors, 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 right? So we are, because the thing about trauma is that the body stores trauma, right? The mind might not remember because the mind might suppress it, right? To make you feel comfortable, to make you feel, to make you feel good about yourself, or to make you survive, right? The mind might suppress trauma that we feel, but one thing the body can do is the body cannot hide what emotions are in you. So when you have generational trauma, that also is stored in you. And a lot of African Americans, or a lot of Africans in general, I would say, right, face generational trauma in today's society. And that's one of the things that most people don't put in perspective, right? Why some people from the African American descent or from the African descent might act the way that they act, right? Because when you look into the American system, what happened with slavery, and even in Africa, right? What happened with slavery, right? There were so many inhumane things that happened to Black people. And not to bring this to a race conversation, because that's not what it is. I'm just using the African American group as an example. I can also use some of the Jewish people that went through the Holocaust, right? I can also use them as an example, but I feel more comfortable speaking about the African American and African experience, right? So when you look into what happened to the African Americans or Africans, right, with slavery, a lot of us, in all of the inhumane things, right, women were getting beat, raped, men as well. People were being treated as less than or not even human or subhuman, right? When you look at those things, slavery happened not so long ago, right? About 50 years ago, less than 100 years ago. So many people in our society today, to get to my point, is they're still living with that generational trauma in them, right? So when you're able to understand your inner child and you're able to understand your past self from that perspective, you can now begin to heal yourself and reconnect with your inner child, and also, heal your trauma from that perspective. The last thing that I'm going to talk about when it comes down to connecting to your inner child is, it restores joy and creativity, right? This is a huge part of healing your inner child, because it allows you to have more joy in your life, and also it allows you to become more creative. That is what children love. Children love to play. Children love to be creative, right? And in today's society, you see a lot of people are not creative, not because they don't have it in them, because all of us are born creators, right? But it's because there's that part of ourself that has been suppressed for so long that many people don't explore. And the last thing I'm going to talk on here is reconnect. It reconnecting with your inner child allows you to reclaim your sense of wonder, and brings more lightness into your life, right? It allows you to just feel free, to make that wording a little bit less jumbled there. Go ahead, guys. If you're watching from TikTok, please go ahead and drop some comments in the comment section. Let me know if this conversation is helpful. Let me know if you have started your healing journey when it comes down to reconnecting with your inner child, what that is like for you. Also, let me know if you have any other questions about inner child healing, or the topic that we're talking on today. And also, I want to ask you, please go ahead, tap on the screen, share this live, share it to other people. Let's continue to heal. This healing journey means a lot, right? And because the beautiful thing about healing is when one person heal, right, we kind of heal the collective. Right. So the more people that heal in today's society, the global collective begins to heal as well. So we're going to move into the next part of our conversation here, is how your inner child might show up. Right. One of the ways some of the ways, not one, some of the ways that your inner child might show up is when you get triggered, right? Which I'm going to talk about that a little bit more as we get into the conversation. When you get triggered, your inner child might show up in that place, right? When you feel discomfort, your inner child might show up as well. Also, when old wounds show up, right? And your old wounds may show up as anger. Your old wounds may show up as abandonment. Your old wounds may also show up as rejection, insecurity, vulnerability, right? Being afraid to be vulnerable or being too vulnerable, because that is a thing as well. When you feel guilt, shame, and anxiety, right? Those are some of the ways that your inner child might show up in your adult body today. And that is why it is so important. It is really important for us to be able to go back into this inner child work and understand what triggers us in our adult life today. How is anger showing up in my body? How is abandonment showing up in my body? How is shame showing up in my body? How is insecurity showing up in my body? And where is that stemming from, right? What emotional wound is that stemming from? What childhood experience is that stemming from? And then we're going to move on to the next slide here. And this is when we're almost getting to the meat part of our conversation here, right? Which is we're going to talk about some signs of inner child wounds here. Again, please, I want you to drop some comments in the comment section. If you're watching from TikTok, go ahead and drop some comments in the comment section. Let me know if you have any of the signs here, signs of inner child wounds. The first sign is people pleasing, right? Many people in today's society are people pleasing, not because they want to be kind, not because they want to be nice, but because that is stemming from an inner child wound as well, right? Constantly putting others first, fearing rejection. If you say no, right? If you say no, you're fearing that people are going to reject you. So you're constantly people pleasing, right? The second thing is it's fear of abandonment, right? How this might show up is anxiety when people pull away from you, or feeling unsafe when you are alone, right? In today's society, many people don't know how to be alone because they are afraid of being alone, and not because they want to, not because they're afraid of being alone technically, but because they had that abandonment issue of inner child healing that they needed to face, right, from younger age, that maybe they had to stay at home. Mom had to go to work or dad had to go to work. They had to stay at home by themselves. And now it is hard for them to be alone, right? And you see abandonment issues show up a lot in relationships, right? When your partner has to be away from you, you see many people that have abandonment issue always texting their partner like, hey, where are you at? What are you doing? Constantly needing to get reassured by their partner, right? The next way that the next sign that you might see from inner child wound is low self-worth, right? And we see a lot of people in today's society. I don't want to go down this route, but I'm going down it. We see a lot of people in today's society having a lot of plastic surgery, right? Not to say that, I want to say, also put this out there, people have the right to do whatever they want to do with the body, right? However, you see a lot of people having surgery today because of low self-esteem. There is this book called Cybernetics by Maxwell. I believe that's who wrote the book. He was a plastic surgeon. And in this book, he talks about most people that come to him, right? Most people that come to get plastic surgery, they're coming to him not because they actually feel they need a plastic surgery. Most people that come to him is because they're emotionally broken, right? And he said this, you don't need plastic surgery or you don't need physical surgery, you need emotional surgery, right? He said most of the people that come to him needed an emotional surgery. And oftentimes when he talks to those people and find out the root cause of what is actually pushing them to come get the surgery, it turns out some of them don't end up getting the surgery, right? Because they realize that they don't need it. And what we see in today's society, especially the trend that is going on, is we see a lot of women having the same type of facial feature, right? That is a form of low self-esteem because they think that if they don't fit into that bracket, if they don't fit into that box of having a certain type of body, right, then, you know, they are outscaled. They don't want to feel abandoned. They don't want to feel left out. So they are pushed to get all of these fillers into their face, right? That is a form of low self-esteem, right? A harsh inner critic. When you cannot sit with your own self, you cannot hear your own self, you're always criticizing yourself, right? You're always talking down to yourself. You don't believe in your own self or your worth, right? You don't think you're enough. You think you're unworthy of love, right? That is another form of low self-esteem, where difficult expressing emotion. When you are not able to express your emotion, you suppress your feelings, like sadness, anger, and happiness, right? Yes, people could suppress happiness. I've experienced that myself, where I genuinely feel happy in the inside, but because of the people that are around me, because of the environment that I was in, I had to suppress my happiness because I didn't want to seem like I was too joyful, right? Because that makes people uncomfortable, you know? So being able to suppress that, right? And it also stemmed from, you know, early on as well. And that's why inner child healing is so important. Another reason why is another signs that you might notice for your inner child healing is that perfectionist, right? If you are somebody that love to, you know, you're a perfectionist, right? You believe you must, you know, be flawless at everything, right? You know, that might also stem from an inner child one as well, right? Unless, you know, you're just the go at everything and you don't really worry about what the society says, right? To be, I don't know, but nobody's perfect. Let's just say that. So if you feel as if you need to be perfect, right, that might be a deeper wound that you might want to check into as well. We're going to move into the next part of our conversation here, which is more signs about, you know, signs that you could notice is struggling with boundaries, right? When you are struggling with your boundaries, that might be a sign from your inner child, right? Your inner child might be struggling, you know, as well. Letting others overstep their boundaries, right? That might stem from an inner child wound as well. Also, shutting down completely, right, to protect yourself, right? You don't want to face, let's say you're facing a conflict, right? You don't want to face your conflict, you immediately shut down. That might be a sign that it's coming from your inner child wound, right? That might be something that you might want to go back and revisit and ask yourself, why am I shutting down, right? What is the reason? What is causing me to shut down my emotion, to shut down my feelings, right? What is causing me to not, you know, keep going in this? What is making me stop, right? So the next part that we're going to talk about here is going to be a little bit of an exercise. I know that you guys, I actually, there's 3 more signs. Overreacting to triggers, right? Strong emotions response to small events that connects to past wounds, right? When you overly react to something small. I used to do this all the time, right? I will overreact to small things. And that's because as a child, right, I was the girl that talked a lot sometimes. And I grew up in a family of 7, and they used to tell me, they call me by my middle name, Annie. They'll tell you, shut your big mouth, right? So So when I grew up as an adult, I will overreact to everything because I wanted that, like, feel that like validation, like, okay, you can't tell me to shut up anymore, right? So getting to recognize what that was tied to, why did I overreact a lot, right? And it allowed me to see that, okay, it was me that was, when I was young, I was being suppressed, like, shut your mouth, especially if you come from an African family. If you're one of the youngest ones, which I am, I'm the 6 out of 7, right? Your voice doesn't really matter for the most part, right? You kind of are being, you're suppressed a lot, you know? So as an adult, as I begin to heal myself, I had to recognize that, hey, the reason why I overreact to a lot of things is because I felt suppressed as a little child, right? And going back and healing that part of myself and giving myself recognition, like, hey, it's okay, you know what I'm saying? And looking at things from a different perspective, it has allowed me to react less, right? Which has also allowed me to feel so much peace in my life. The eighth thing that I want to talk about here is fear of criticism or conflict, right? A lot of people are afraid to be criticized in today's society, right? And not because they can handle the criticism that is being thrown away. It's because of an inner child that is within them, that is fragile, that is gentle, that is soft, right? That inner child that probably went through so much criticism. And most of the time, the people that bully you, and I'm using that word bully very lightly here, right? The people that bully you from inner child are the people that actually loved you, right? They're your family members, your friends, the people that you're surrounded by, right? So when you are growing up as an adult, right, you become afraid of criticism because you don't want to feel that same shame, that same neglect that you felt as a child, right? Also, you're afraid of conflict. The last thing I'm going to touch on here is that you're attracted to toxic relationships, right? When you don't heal your inner child, and you are somebody that had a lot of emotional baggage as a younger child, you are attracted to toxic relationships because you're attracted to the type of relationships that you grew up in, right? And that's why most of the time they say people marry their father or they marry their mother, right? Because they're attracted to that relationship that they're familiar with, right? Especially if you have yet to do your inner child work, right? You get married to your mother or your father because you get attached to those type of the way that they treated you, right? Because it is familiar to you, you think that that is how it should be, right? But instead, it could have been a toxic relationship growing up, right? Maybe your father didn't give you enough attention, give you enough love, right? And now you think that that is how love needs to feel like in a relationship. You feel like you have to always ask your partner for them to love you, because when you were a child, you always felt as if you needed to go and ask for you felt like you needed to get your dad's attention, right? So it could come from that place as well. Also, reacting childhood dynamics, like I said, right? The relationships, seeking validations from unhealthy connection, right? Also, when you see a lot of women that are, let's say, attaching, right? They attach to men very easily, right? They might be also reacting the abandonment issue that they had when they were not getting loved. And also men get attached as well. Let me say that as well. When they didn't get the right love that they deserve, right? Now you see them become fearful attachers in relationships, or anxious attachers in relationships. We're going to move on to the next part of the conversation here, which is, I think this part has an exercise there. So let's see the next slide. So we're going to talk about tracing those feelings, right? We're going to talk about tracing the feelings, and if you can trace those feelings back to a specific childhood event, you may realize a similar situation in your adult life that triggers the same response. And what does this mean? So some of the triggers that I mentioned was anxiety, abandonment, fear, also shame, blame, right? Insecurity, anger, right? If you can trace where your anger is coming from in this moment as a child from early on, right? Then you can know where the root cause is to start to heal yourself. I want to give us a prompt here real quick. We're going to take maybe a 2-minute prompt to reflect on this. So the self-reflection prompt is, what childhood memory still makes you feel small, unsafe, afraid? I would add insecure, right? And feel anxious, feel abandonment. What childhood memory still makes you feel like that? Guys, please go ahead and drop your comments in the comment section on here on TikTok. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you guys so much for dropping the comments, the like. At one point, we had like almost 300 people here on the live, which was amazing. So thank you guys so much. Please go ahead and like, share this live as well. Push this live out there. Let's continue to heal. Thank you so much again, y'all. Again, our self-reflection prompt here is, what childhood memory, right, makes you feel unsafe, makes you feel afraid or uncertain, right? It brings out anger. Thank you so much for pushing out the live out there. I appreciate it. Godness, thank you so much. Again, we're just gonna do a quick self-reflection moment here. If you want to drop in the comment section, let me know what childhood memory still brings up old wounds for you. Right, that'll be great. And this will give me a little moment to catch my breath, you know, and drink some water as well. Thank you guys so much for sharing the live. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Yeah, and how are you dealing with that? Did you tackle that yet? Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining. No, still angry. Okay. If you want to keep talking about this, please send me a DM. We can definitely work through that as well. If you want to maybe just talk about that and see, because I do offer coaching, and we can see if we can get to the root cause of that. We can get to the root cause of that, but also there's a lot of I hope that you stay to the end of this live, right? I hope you really stay to the end of this live, because hopefully by the time we get into which we're about to get into it right now, we'll get into the meaty part of the live. I hope that you can now start to release a little bit of the anger that you're holding within yourself, and you start to recognize like whatever happened wasn't your fault, and you had no control over that. But in this moment, you have full control over how you get to react and how you get to see it, and how you can rechange the narrative there, and start to heal from that perspective. And I'm that is not an easy thing to deal with, right? It's a challenging thing. It's a painful thing to deal with. So, again, send me a DM if you want to talk more in private about that, right? Also, someone said, you can be my mommy. Okay. Hi, son or daughter. I'm not sure if you're a guy or a girl. Okay, I will stick around for sure. Yeah, please do stick around. And I hope that you go ahead and get some like pen, paper, right? You can do some journaling in this place as well. I love your lipstick. Oh, thank you. Yes, please DM me if you want to do a little one-on-one coaching session, or you just want to talk, you want to get some ideas from me, go ahead and DM me. That would be great. You know, I'll respond when I get off this live. Thank you guys so much. We're gonna move on to the main core of the part here. I Goddess, I hope that you're still here. Let's go. You know, this is the healing part that we've been waiting for, right? So go ahead again before we continue. Share the live, like the live, you know, comment, right? Let this be interactive as well. So we're going to move into the 6 stages of inner child healing. The first stage here that we're going to, the first stage that we're going to talk on is awareness. The second stage we're going to talk on is acknowledgement, right? Acknowledging our inner child. The third stage that we're going to talk on here is expression. We're going to be able to learn to express our inner child from then and now. The fourth stage that we're going to talk about is reparenting and rewriting the story. This is what I was talking about, Goddess, is being able to rewrite that story, being able to reparent yourself from that situation, right? The next stage that we're going to talk on is integration. That means like integrating the childhood and your adult self, moving together, moving forward. And the last stage that we're going to talk about is empowerment. How can we stay empowered in this moment whilst keeping our inner child? So let's dive into the first stage, which is awareness. So when you're starting your healing journey, right? The first thing you got to do is become aware, right? You got to be aware of, I need to heal. I need to start my healing journey, right? I don't like the way I feel. I feel like shit every single day. When I wake up, I'm depressed. When I wake up, I'm sad. When I wake up, I'm angry, right? When I wake up, I don't have any enthusiasm for life. When I wake up, I don't have any purpose. I don't feel any purpose, right? When you feel like that, like in that muddiness, that dirtiness, that you feel like, oh, I hate life in this moment, right? Know that that's a good thing, right? When you feel depressed, know that that is a good thing. I know depression is like people look at it from a bad, negative perspective, but depression is just a form of communication. Your body is telling you something, right? So when you are feeling that low, negative emotion, that is where the awareness kicks in, right? So when you become of your inner child wound, right, you begin to identify the reoccurring emotional patterns, right? You notice like, okay, for the past, 1 month, every day when I wake up, or at least 6 to 5 times every day when I wake up, I feel depressed, I feel anxious, I feel nervous, I feel overwhelmed, right? You're noticing the emotional pattern over and over and over. That is where the healing starts to happen, right? You keep note of that. You notice what kind of feeling you're feeling, right? The next thing is recognizing and noticing where the childhood wound may still be influencing your life, your thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior, right? Noticing that by keeping track of the emotional patterns that is happening in your life, you get to become aware of where is this stemming from by asking yourself questions. An exercise that you could do is you write a letter to your younger self describing the painful moment in your childhood memory, right? You want to describe what that feel like. For example, what you just mentioned here. You want to describe that. You want to write that out. I know it might be painful when you get to start, or when you start to write it out, but that pain that you feel, that tears that might come out of your eye, is you releasing, right? Is you healing, right? That is where healing happens, right? So a self-reflection question that you might ask yourself is, what did you need then that you didn't receive, and how can you give that to yourself now, right? What did you need then when that trauma happened? What did you need then when your mom or your dad neglected you? What did you need then when people kept you out of a group, the friend group, the social group, right? What did you need? And then from that place, you write in that moment, right? Write what you needed, and how can you give yourself that in today's society? How can you give yourself that in your adult self today, right? That is where the healing comes from, right? And this might be painful, but that is where true healing happens, right? And then we'll move on to the next part, which is acknowledgement, right? Oh, actually, before we move into acknowledgement, some practical tools that you can use today to become more aware of your inner child is mindful reflection journey, right? Be mindful. Maybe if I spend 5 minutes every single day and be present in that moment, turn off your phone, right? Just 5 minutes. Be mindful about the things that you're writing, right? Write about your childhood emotions. Another practical tool that you can use is photo connection experience. And I'm going to tell or exercise, right? When you, as you know, I want to say, go back, take some childhood pictures of yours, look at those pictures, right? Look at the innocence that you had as a child, right? That is going to heal you as an adult, right? Excuse me, connect those joyful moments or memories, right, to your adult self now, and see how much healing that brings to you. A lot of people don't go back and look at their childhood photos, but that is one of the ways that you can start to heal your inner child. Track your triggers, right? You want to be able to track your triggers, creative expression, and guided inner child meditation, right? Find meditation online that is specific for inner child healing, and then, go from there. The next thing that we are going to talk about is acknowledgement, right? Being able to acknowledge your inner child. Name the pain, right? Name what kind of pain you're feeling in your body. Stop minimizing your experience, right? Stop minimizing how you feel or what happened, right? Actually feel the emotion that you felt in that moment. Acknowledge unmet needs, right? Acknowledge the fact that, hey, I didn't have friends in elementary school. I didn't have friends in middle school. I didn't have friends when I needed someone, right? Acknowledge the fact that, hey, I didn't have food to eat when I was 5 years old. My mom didn't have the money. Acknowledge that pain. Acknowledge the neglect that you felt. My parents didn't care. Maybe you grew up in the crack era, right, where your mom and dad were high on drugs. Acknowledge the fact that, hey, you felt like you had to raise yourself because your mom and dad were high most of the time of their lives, right? Also, validate your younger self, right? Validate your younger self. Give them the prop that they deserve, right? Give them the acknowledgement that they deserve. Accept the pain, the fear, and acknowledge the acknowledge the fact that you deserve compassion, empathy, right? Acknowledge yourself in that space. An exercise that you might do is write down five needs that were unmet during your childhood, right? Take a moment right now or later on after this conversation, write down 5 needs that were unmet as a child, right? I would say, for a quick example for mine, is when I was in middle school, right? My parents didn't show up for my basketball game. Most of the time, my dad had to work, right? To me, and then seeing other kids' parents show up for their basketball game, right? Not to say that, that's a bad thing, because I understood my dad had to work, but that was an unmet support, direct support from my family, right? Or my siblings either. So acknowledging that part for myself and recognizing that, hey, it's okay that, they didn't show up, right? That's okay, but I still have to acknowledge the fact that they never did, right? So being able to acknowledge stuff like that is going to allow you to heal from that perspective. And then some practical tools that we can use to be able to acknowledge our inner child is, that's on next slide. Some practical tools is name and speak them out, right? You want to name the things that you miss. Write affirmations, right? Practice affirmations. Storytelling, right? Tell your story, tell your story not from a negative perspective, but also tell your story from a joyful perspective, right? There are beautiful moments in childhood as well. Tell those stories, right? Memory jar. This is a big one. right? Write down some memories that you had as a child, right? Put them in a jar. And then towards the end of the year, go back and revisit it and look at all of that, right? You're going to see that you had some great memories, some sad memories, some joyful memories, right? That is going to allow you to heal, because when you are able to write things out, you're processing your emotion, right? And then revisit a favorite snack, book, or a game when that you love as a child, right? As an adult, we are all suit and tie, we are all business, right? But sometimes it's okay to go back to your favorite snack. It's okay to go back to your favorite book or the favorite game that you used to love. For me, favorite game was basketball, right? Every time I go back and I shoot basketball, I feel at peace. The next thing that we're going to talk about here is the third exercise is releasing the suppressed emotions, right? Goddess, I think that this is the part that we want to talk on here, is releasing the suppressed emotions, right? This is something that, because you mentioned that you still feel anger within you, right? Maybe you have acknowledged, maybe you're aware of the problem, right? You're aware of the hurt that you feel. You have acknowledged the hurt, and that's why you could tell that you're still angry, right? And now maybe this is a stage that you're on, because healing happened in stages, right? Maybe the stage that you're on is being able to release those emotions. And maybe you just are finding a difficult time releasing this emotion, or don't know how to do it just yet, right? So maybe this is where you are. So release the emotion, give your inner child a voice, right? Give your inner child a voice. Many of us suppress our inner child. Give your inner child a voice, right? Talk to your inner child. Let them express themselves. Go into your car if you need a space to be able to allow your inner child to express himself. Go into your car. If you need to scream, go out there and scream, right? Scream as loud as you can. Right. Give your inner child a voice to express how they truly feel, right? Journal, draw, cry if you have to, scream if you have to, right? Safely, but go ahead and scream. Engage in creative expression, right? Express yourself creatively, right? Take all the build-up tension that you have in yourself and go out there and be creative. Use that to drive you to become creative, right? Also forgiveness, right? Forgive yourself and forgive the other person. Forgiveness is a crucial part to healing, right? Many people don't recognize how important it is for us to forgive, because when you forgive, it's not only for that person, but it's also for yourself, right? And sometimes you need to forgive yourself for not knowing. You need to forgive yourself for being vulnerable. You need to forgive yourself for allowing the subconscious programming that society has put on you, right? You need to forgive yourself for being helpless, right? Because sometimes that was the case. You were not strong enough to be able to support yourself, right? Forgive yourself in that perspective, right? And again, I'm going to mention cry. See, at least 99% of our eyes is made out of water. We are supposed to cry, people. I don't know who needs to hear this. We are supposed to cry. So many of us suppress our emotions. So many of us hold our emotions back because, especially men, right? We hold our emotions back because we have to be strong. We have to be a man. No, your eyes are made out of water. You're supposed to cry. It is okay for you to cry. It is part of nature. Animals do it as well. Animals cry, right? You're supposed to cry, because when you cry, you're letting go of stuck emotion in your body. And the reason why many of us stay depressed, stay anxious, have overthinking, fear, is because we don't cry, right? You're supposed to allow yourself to express the emotions that are within you. And crying is one of the best ways to do so, right? The next thing is ground yourself. Go outside, walk on the ground, take off your shoes, right? Meditate, sit outside in the sunlight. Go and hug a tree if you need to, right? That is actually one of the best hugs you can get, hugging a tree. It's freaking amazing. If you haven't done it before, try it. Go hug a tree. You'll love it, And then also one more thing, look inward, right? You want to look within yourself when you go on your inner child healing journey, right? Look within yourself. Go find it inside of you. You know, the light that you're looking for is within you. The healing that you're looking for is within you, right? Everything is within you. Of course, sometimes you might need somebody to support you, guide you in that space, but you can heal yourself. Every single one of us have the ability to heal ourselves. An exercise you can do when it comes down to releasing your emotion is draw a picture of your inner child. What is their facial expression saying? Right? What is their facial expression saying? And what are they trying to say in that moment, right? What are they trying to say? Also, you can do this by using your left hand, right? And also you can write a letter to your inner child as well in this space. Use your left hand. The reason why you want to use your left hand is because when you write with your left hand, you kind of emulate how your inner child would write. Or if you're a left-handed, use your right hand, right? Because that is your less dominant hand. And the less dominant hand you use gives you more power. Because when you write, you see it from your inner child's perspective, right? You see it from that childlike perspective, which gives you more of a connection to yourself. We're going to talk about some practical ways on how to reconnect with your inner child and release those emotions. Play is one of the most important thing every child can do, right? Play without purpose. Many adults in our society today think that, playing have to be this structured thing. No, sometimes you just want to play without a purpose. You want to just have fun, just for the of it, right? Excuse my French here. You just want to have fun just because, and that allows you to connect with your inner child, right? Also, move your body, dance, allow yourself to be free, right? That is how you reconnect with your inner child, and that's how you release the emotions that are stuck in your body as well. Also, for women, you want to dance and move your hips. Men as well, but women particularly, we hold a lot of tension in our hips, so you want to dance and move your hips a lot, women. That will allow you to release the tension that you're holding in your body. So if you're ever tight, ladies, you're ever feeling upset, you're feeling uptight, someone triggered you, just go ahead and do a little hip roll. You know what I'm saying? Get that tension away from you real quick. Also, voice your feelings, right? You want to always voice your feelings. One of the things that keep people in agony, in hatred, right, and also feeling bitterness is because they don't voice their opinions. They hold on to the tension that is within them, and it festers, and it just grows and it grows and it grows, and now they feel disgusted with themselves because they didn't voice their opinion. Voice your opinion, because maybe your inner child was suppressed, right? You want to be able to voice your opinion. And I'm not saying go out there and cuss everybody out, right? But also you want to be able to put your foot down and say, this is how I feel, and not let people shift your boundaries in that perspective, right? Also, dress up, right? You want to dress up as your younger self. If you are somebody that used to play basketball, I'll use that again as an example. Go ahead and put on some basketball shorts, right? Take your suit and tie away, take your dresses away, take them heels off, put on some regular stuff that you would wear as a kid. Put on a t-shirt that has a cartoon character on it, right? Dress yourself a little bit more like your younger self would. And then imagination, right? Create an imagination room in your head. Your imagination is one of those places that can allow you to get instant healing, right? When you're able to go in your head and create a small room of healing in there, right? You can always retreat. Let's say somebody triggers you. Hey, imagination room, go back in here. You have a presentation to do, go in your imagination room and calm yourself there, right? Because that could be your happy place, right? You could be in a chaotic family. You can be somewhere that is intense all the time, right? but you can create a safe and happy place in your mind. And the beautiful thing about children is that they are so, like, their imagination is wild, right? Children's imagination is wild. So you want to be able to do that as well for yourself as an adult. That is going to serve you on the greater, on the longer, in the longer run as well. The next thing we want to talk about is reparenting yourself. This is super important, right? Being able to give yourself what you didn't receive as a child, becoming the parent that you needed, right? And when I talk about parent, doesn't mean your biological parent, right? It could mean a caregiver. It could mean the supportive system that you needed in that moment, right? Learn to self-soothe yourself. Learn to comfort yourself and encourage yourself, right? That is what reparenting means as well. A lot of time when we talk about reparenting, we think that it has to involve another person, right? It doesn't always have to involve another person. It could just be you learning some soothing tools, learning how to cope, right? Learning how to comfort yourself and learning how to encourage yourself. Also, you want to set healthy boundaries when you're learning to repair yourself, right? Because maybe your boundaries were, abused when you were younger, right? You want to learn how to set some healthy boundaries as an adult. Also, practice self-compassion, right? This is huge. Be able to be kind to yourself. So many people are so rude to themselves. So many people are their own biggest bully, especially in adult society today, right? So many of us look at ourselves in the mirror and we tell ourselves how much we are ugly, how much we're fat, how much we don't love ourselves, how much we, I don't know, dislike ourselves, right? So many of us are our own biggest bullies, right? So be mindful what you tell yourself, right? So practice love and compassion for yourself. Tell yourself, I love me. Tell yourself you are safe, right? Tell yourself you're safe now. Tell yourself, I see you, I hear you. Allow yourself to feel your emotions, right? Allow yourself to have empathy and compassion for yourself. Allow yourself to know that you are loved. An exercise that you can do to repair yourself in this space is each morning, look in the mirror and speak lovingly to your inner child, right? Not to yourself, to your inner child, right? Imagine your inner child being in the present and letting your inner child know that you love them, you see them, right? Their voice matter, they matter, right? Allow yourself to be able to indulge in that. And then some practical tools that you can use here are when you go on a healing journey. Somatic healing is one of the best to use, which is connecting your body and your breath together. Gently using stretch, use gentle stretch. You want to stretch your body, you want to shake your body, shake the tension out. Like I was saying, you want to dance, you want to move, right? Exercising is another way of moving your body. Also, you want to place your hand on over your chest, right, and breathe. Your breath is the one thing that connects your external world to your internal world. Your breath is the one thing that can allow you to feel whole. Your breath is the one thing that can allow you to calm yourself from a chaotic moment, right? So place your hand on your chest and take a couple deep breaths in. You want to validate your inner child, right? You want to do visualization. Close your eyes and imagine your younger self in a safe place, right? If you're someone that safety was a thing, close your eyes. Imagine yourself in a safe space. You can take yourself anywhere in this world, right? When it comes down to your imagination, you can be in Hawaii while you're in California, right? You can be in Cameroon while you live in Texas, right? In the United States. You can be anywhere when it comes down to your imagination, right? So use your imagination to create a safe space for yourself. Sit with your feelings, right? Sit with what you're feeling within yourself. Listen to your feelings. Listen to the needs that you need, and offer yourself the right tools, the right resources that you need. Picture yourself holding your child, your inner child's hands, and living with them, right? You don't want to leave your inner child behind you. You want to live with them, which is going to bring me to our next slide. Integrating with your inner child. We're almost done here. One second, guys. Just need a little bit of water. Um, kind of ran out of water, guys. But integrating with your inner child, right? This is when you want to be able to bring your inner child with you as an adult. You don't want to leave your inner child behind you, right? You don't want your inner child to be in front of you. You want your inner child to be your partner, right? You want to be able to work with your inner child hand to hand. So merging your inner child with your adult life, right? That means carrying carrying your inner child with you, not behind you, allowing room for play, curiosity, and vulnerability, right? And I'm also going to add here that allowing allowing space for your inner child to be able to voice their opinion when you are making decisions in your life. It's super important. It's crucial because when you're able to allow your inner child to make a voice or opinion, it allows you to align with your purpose. It allows you to align with the things that you used to love as a child. And most of the time, when you are looking for quote unquote your purpose in life, right, it's often something that you were great at when you were a little kid. I talk a lot to, when I was a little kid, right? And in today's society, I like to talk, right? I like to host webinars. I like to host seminars. I like to host a podcast, right? Because that's something that came to me natural. But when I was younger, I talked a lot and it was suppressed, right? But today I'm recognizing that this is something that I'm natural at. So I like to talk a lot. So reconnect with your inner child, and you might find your purpose in that space. And that's why it is important for you to give your inner child a voice, right? An exercise that you might be able to do in this space is write a gratitude letter write a gratitude letter for your inner child. Oh no, sorry, excuse me. Write a gratitude letter from your inner child to your adult self, right? Act like you're the child writing a letter to your adult self, and let your adult self know how grateful you are, as a child. And some practical tools that you can use in this space is the next slide. Practical tools you can use is live in alignment with both needs, right? Validate your inner child's need and validate your adult self need. Make decisions that honor your adult and your adult responsibilities and your inner child desires, right? Honor old dreams and passions. Pause, pursue things you loved and wish as a child, even in a small ways. Guys, I'm getting a bit tight here. Create a ritual that keeps the connection alive, right? You want to create a ritual that keeps your inner child connection and your adult child connection alive, right? Establish small traditions that nourish and acknowledge your inner child as well, right? You want to be able to create traditions that allow you to nourish your inner child and also your adult self. And the last practical tools that we're going to talk on here is maintaining and managing the space that you're in, which will be the next slide. This part, we're going to talk about empowering and rewriting the story, right? This is where you get to make the full change, right? And I'm going to say this as well. It doesn't only have to relate to a younger self or your inner child. If you're an adult today in your life and you don't like the life that you live, you have to rewrite a new story, right? And of course, this takes time. This needs you to be patient with yourself, but rewriting the story that you want, picturing the adult self that you want to be, picturing the life that you want to live, and be able to rewrite that story. So when it comes down to rewriting the story, live from a healed place or living from a healed place, right? Rewriting your story, you turn your pain into power, right? Take the pain that you felt as an inner child and turn that into power, right? Empower yourself, change the narrative in that space. And I don't like to use the word survival, right? Because survival means you survive something tragic. I changed the narrative there, right? I lived through that moment. Therefore, I am empowering myself. I am brave. I am a warrior, right? In that space. I'm not a survivor. A survivor makes me feel like fragile a little bit, right? I'm not a survivor. I am a warrior. I am a conqueror. I went through that for a reason, for a purpose, because everything we go through has a reason, has a purpose, right? So I am a warrior. I'm a conqueror, and live from that perspective and rewrite the story in that way. Set new emotions, right? When you're rewriting the story, you want to set your body to align with new emotions, because like I said, our emotions get stored in the body, right? But how you could set new emotions is you want to create new experience, right? You want to experience new things. You want to go out there and do new things, right? So that you can replace the negative emotions that you experience from your inner child, right? Because if you are able to create new experience, now you have new emotions to live off. And if you're able to live off new emotions, then, right, you're rewriting a more positive story. Also, speak up for yourself with confidence, right? Of course, I continue to emphasize on this. You want to speak up for yourself. Create new identity, right? Rewrite your identity, right? This also works with somebody that is looking to change a career path, right? Kind of rewrite the career path that you want. Also, it works with changing your weight. If you want to lose weight, write that. I am, maybe you want to lose 10 pounds. I am 10 pounds lesser, right? I am working on becoming 10 pounds lesser. So you can rewrite your identity in this space, right? Also reframe the negative, right? You want to reframe the narrative of what happened, right? Whatever happened in early childhood, you want to reframe that. You want to empower that. You want to give that some positive, powerful words, right? Break the cycle by identifying the core wound, right? You want to be able to identify the core wound when you're breaking the cycle, right? And also embodiment and practice embodiment, right? Embody the new identity that you're creating, right? Be able to hone into that new identity. Some exercise you can use here is list 3 strengths or qualities you develop because of what happened, right? This could be resilient, empathy, creativity, problem solving, right? You want to list some powerful tools that you develop because you went through that challenge. Because every challenge that we go through, whatever it's in early childhood or in adult life, every challenge we go through teaches something, right? There's a purpose behind it. Some practical tools that you can use in this space, you know, you can do meditation with your inner child. Keep your goal in mind, right? And that doesn't only have to be with your inner child. This can be with your personal life. Keep the goal in mind. By you keeping the goal in mind, you're going to create your actions to match the goal. And because you are keeping focus on the goal, right, you are no longer worrying about your inner child or how vulnerable you were in that moment. You're empowering yourself to see something new, right? There's an exercise, I call it phone ring, right? Ask yourself, right, is this if you get triggered, for example, if you get triggered, right, ask yourself, is this something that is an emergency? Do I need to attend to this emotion in this moment, right? And I call that phone ring, right? Do I need to pick up this call, right? Somebody's calling you. Do I need to pick up this call or do I need to ignore it, right? So, play with yourself in that perspective, right? And see if the emotions that you're feeling in that moment needs immediate attention. The next thing you want to do is listen to your inner child, right? You want to always listen to your inner child. They're important, they're valuable. You don't want to neglect them, because if you neglect them, they are going to self-sabotage 100%. And many of us find ourselves self-sabotaging today, thinking that it is us that is trying to self-sabotage. No, It is your inner child that feels suppressed, that feels as if you're not listening to them, that feels as if you're not letting them have room in your life, so they self-sabotage because they want attention. Right? Children are great with this, by the way. Right? If a child wants to eat, what do? They cry and they get their attention. Right? If a child wants some attention from the mom, what do? They cry and they get their attention. Right? So you want to be able to give your inner child the attention that they deserve, or they will come through and self-sabotage. Right? Weekly inner child check-ins with yourself, right? You want to do weekly check-ins with yourself, with your inner child. This could be through a form of journaling. I also have an exercise that is called shadow boxing, right? This is when you practice what you're, pre-practice what, how do I, you pre-practice what your inner child needs, right? So let's say, for example, you know that you're going to have family dinner soon, right? You're going to meet your family, and you know that when you go there, you get triggered, right? And the reason why you get triggered is because your inner child used to feel suppressed, or they used to abuse your inner child at your family house, right? So before you get there, you want to practice how you're going to respond, right, to your family members. You want to practice what you're going to say. You want to create scenarios that can possibly happen, so that when you get there, you don't get triggered, right? When you get there, you're able to respond. And I call this shadow boxing, right? Overly respond is also another way where you get to recognize that that is your inner child reacting, right? So you want to respond less. They say you want to speak maybe like 30% and listen 70%, or speak 20% and listen 80%, right? That's a way to be able to support your inner child as well. Create a healthy relationship with yourself and others, right? Another way to be able to build a healthy relationship with your inner child is to be able to have healthy relationship with others and with yourself. Regular check-in is important. You always want to check in with yourself. Some things that you can ask yourself is, how am I feeling today? What does my inner child need from me in this moment, right? You always want to check in with yourself. And then the last part of our conversation, which we're coming to the end of our presentation today, is the end exercise here. If you're watching on TikTok, and if you're in the presentation room here, please, we're going to do a quick exercise. I call this the butterfly, right? You can either go like this and put your hand on your chest right here, or you can do a butterfly out here. Okay, so so this is the butterfly, right? We're gonna close your eyes. If you're on TikTok watching, go ahead and close your eyes. Again, you can go like this, put your hand on your heart, or you can go across. So I'm going to go across. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Now visualize your inner child. See if you can bring up your inner child in your mind right now. Speak to them. Let them know that you see them. Let them know you're not going to abandon them again. Let them know that you love them. Let them know that you see them. Let them know you appreciate them. Repeat these words after me. I love you. I love you. I love you. I respect you. I respect you. I respect you. You mean a lot to me. You mean a lot to me. You mean a lot to me. You're my best friend. You're my best friend. You're my best friend. Give yourself a big hug in this moment. Squeeze tight, hug, hug, hug yourself, squeeze tight. Now you can open your eyes. When you open your eyes, just go ahead and rub on your shoulders a little bit. Rub on your shoulders. Just keep rubbing in your arms. What this does is allow you to feel comfort. You comfort yourself in this moment, right? All right. Thank you guys so much again for joining me on our presentation today. I really appreciate everyone for joining. Thanks to everyone that joined on the webinar and also on TikTok. TikTok, you are going crazy today. I appreciate all of you guys. We had like what 300 and something people show up at one point again. So that is amazing. Thank you guys so much for supporting this webinar. I also want to open the floor right now for any questions. If anyone have any questions, please go ahead and ask your questions. Put your questions in the chat. Let's go. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask your questions. Also, if you have a comment, right, just add your comment as well. And if nobody does, we are going to wrap it up. But I want to give this maybe like a 2 minutes. Anyone have any questions to ask? Also, in the forum, guys, I want to ask you maybe what is like one thing you gained from the presentation, or what is one thing you received from it? Anything? Anyone can share, by the way. Just unmute yourself.
Okay. I would like to share something. Yeah. So from what I learned today, and then what I've also been contemplating on, is that our inner self, that's the childhood we had, the child we were, is our truest self. It's it's what when this world, when things get dark, when things changes, it's the only unchanging thing about us. It's when we were pure and when we still believed. So as things are changing, as the world is becoming harder, still our inner child is the one true self we can rely on. It's when we used to dream, when we were children, is when we had dreams and nothing could bring us down. We always saw the light in things. So even as the world is becoming tougher, even as things are becoming tougher, we should always strive to have that relationship with our past. Like we should, when things become tough, should always think back to what you used to believe in, what you used to think you can be, and then always have that part of you alive in your core. So you should always have your inner child as part of you in your core, that you always refer to it whenever you want to make decisions, you want to make things. Don't look at how things are today, but look at how you used to look at things. Don't let things that have happened to you in recent time like break you down. But you should always have the heart of a child. should have the hope of a child and the belief of a child. That's how we can still be able to reforge ourselves when we break down, and then be able to progress and then live the life we want to have. So I think today's presentation and workshop has been very helpful. It just reminded you of who you were and then who you can still be at your core all the time. So that's what I learned today, and then I'm thankful for the presentation. I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah, wow, that was really great. I love the fact that you talk about how that is the purest part of ourselves. And even when things get challenging, right, to always like look back into that self, because I think that's where our true the light is, right? Our true core resign, and you talked about innocent, right? That's where our true innocent is. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's such a beautiful perspective. Anyone else? How about you, Celestis?
Well, I was going to say a lot, but it seems like it has been said for me. But I don't know, like in a nutshell, I think that healing your inner child is one of the most important things you can do for yourself as an adult. There's a lot of trauma that transcend into our adult life from experiences we had as a child, and we still carry that child within ourselves. And as far as that child has not healed completely, we are completely not free from all that trauma, all that baggage that we carry emotionally, physically sometimes. And I think this is one of the most important things to do to grow yourself as an adult. So I think this is one of the most eye-opening workshops that I've ever listened to or been a part of, and thank you for that. I think you see things that people can't see easily, and it has opened my eyes to a lot of things, and thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Wow. I got the magic eyes. I'm just kidding. But yeah, thank you so much for that. That means a lot. That's such a great feedback. And I'm excited. I'm happy that this was also impactful, right, to you. So, and maybe Perpetua, if you have any to share.
Okay, Miss Lira. I think one thing I learned from this workshop is how to notice when my inner child shows up. Like in the past, I think I would ignore those feelings or judge myself for them. But now I understand that I can actually respond with kindness. Instead, that feels most important shifts to me. So I think that's what I learned.
I love that, being able to like respond to your inner child, right? Because I would love to also touch on that, because there have to be like a connection, a communication, right? You have to have dialogue with yourself, and a lot of times most of us don't communicate with ourselves. So I love that you point that part out. So yes, thank you guys so much for joining. It means so much to me. Again, I want to thank you guys for joining on TikTok, right? I appreciate every single one of you guys. Goddess, thank you so much for joining. I look forward to connecting with you. If you haven't followed me, please go ahead and follow me so I can reach out, even if you don't reach out to me. We'd love to keep in contact. And also, guys, thank you. I think at one point I saw like 16 messages in my inbox, right? So wow, I cannot wait to read all the inbox that you guys have sent me. I appreciate that so much. And thank you guys so much again. This means so much to me, because I'm passionate about healing, right? I'm passionate about spreading this message out there, right? I think that this is part of my purpose in this world. This is part of my calling. And if I am not to do this, right, if I don't do this in today's society, right, then I will not be serving my inner child, right? I will not be serving my own actual purpose, which means that I would not be living my own truth, right? So I'm grateful that you guys are on this journey with me. You guys were able to show up to this webinar and be able to be a motivational factor for me, encourage me in this space. So thank every single one of you guys. You guys mean so much to me. I appreciate all of you guys, and I appreciate all the feedback that you gave me in this space. So I cannot thank you guys very much. Oh, as much as I don't have enough words to express how grateful I am, and to everybody that joined me on TikTok. Guys, thank you. I don't want to take no more of your time. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your weekend. Have a blessed one. And also do not forget to give your inner child a treat. They deserve it. Okay. Bye, guys.
Miss Lira. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Bye.
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 Bye, guys.